Hello everyone, my name is Michael Shaw and thank you very much for joining me today. The purpose of today's demonstration is to provide you guys with a deep dive of the class system, show you exactly how it works, and to demonstrate the value that it can unlock for your business. Now, when you first log into our software, this screen here is the one that you'll see. We call it the business level. Now, the reason we call it that is because it gives you a snapshot of your overall business. You'll have a list of all the super funds that you're looking after in the one consolidated view. You can create tags here to group different funds together, and it'll also show you how much processing has been done and is still to be done for any particular fund. Now, at the business level, there is a lot of processing that you can do in bulk across all of your funds. This has been specifically designed to allow you to generate the maximum amount of efficiency in your administration processes and allow you to grow the SMSF part of your business in the most scalable way. So as an example, one thing that we've found that can take quite a long time on manual systems is the processing of complex corporate actions. On Class, we've developed this corporate actions console, which via our data feeds, it will automatically bring up a list of any corporate actions which impact any of your clients, regardless of whether the actions are domestic or foreign. Now, on this screen, you'll see a list of all these actions, and it'll also show you how many of your funds are impacted by that particular corporate action. What we can do now is click on one of these actions that we want to process, and the system will then bring up a list of each fund that's impacted by it. Now, instead of having to go through it fund by fund and manually process, in this case, it's a share split, so manually calculate how many shares these clients are all going to receive now, we can simply select them all or select the funds that we want to process. So in this example, I'll be selecting all of them. And then we just hit the process button. The system will automatically go through, allocate the correct number of rights to each of your funds, and create the journal entries in the background. So as an example, if I just open one up, if I view it, it'll show us the investment account information, the description of the particular action, when it happened, the original quantity, and now the new quantity. You can then see the audit trail as well as the journal entry that's happened at the fund level, which we'll move into shortly. Another handy feature we have here at the business level is our members console. Now, if I click on that, it'll automatically bring up a list of all the members sitting across any of your funds. Now, it'll also show you their total balances. It'll show you what part is in accumulation and what part is in pension. Now, one of the key differences between Class and other softwares is that all of our data feeds not only feed, but we could also verify the data on a daily basis. So the balances that you see here today are correct as of today. That means we can apply certain filters, like, for example, our pension limits filter. If I click on that, it'll bring up each of your members' total minimums and maximums. And if any of your members haven't drawn down enough by a certain date, their balance will be highlighted in red, like you should see on a few of them here. This will allow you to easily identify that action needs to be taken for any particular member, and you'll be able to notify that client straight away. Typically, if you're processing on an annual basis, that's something that you won't really figure out until you've actually finished processing the fund, which typically would be 6 to 8 months in arrears, at which point it'll be too late to let the client know. On Class, you'll be able to see it straight away and let them know straight away. The same thing applies with the contribution caps filter. If I click on that, this will bring up each of your members' concessional and non-concessional contributions. It will show you the cap space that they still have available. And again, if they accidentally breach it, it'll highlight in red, so you'll be able to identify it straight away. Another filter we've introduced here is our superinforms filter. This is designed to allow you to easily identify which of your clients are going to be impacted by any particular new legislative change. So as an example, if I want to see which of my clients are impacted by the $1.6 million cap, I can simply select that filter. The system will filter it all out for us. From here, we can then export this member data to a spreadsheet where you can do further work on it. So effectively, by using class, you're outsourcing the task of dealing with all future legislative changes. Now, there is a lot more that you can do at the business level, and we'll return to the screen towards the end. Before we do that, I just want to go into a specific fund where I can demonstrate how the processing actually works in the background. So I've got a demo fund set up here, where when we click on it, the first thing we'll see is the fund dashboard. So this will give us a quick snapshot of what the current situation of this particular SMSF is. So we'll see the details of the fund, we'll see the structure of it. The relationships is whoever we've given access to for this fund. So most practices that we speak to will typically outsource their audits. Now, instead of having to generate that big audit file at the end of the year, you can simply create logins for your auditor to be able to log in to the class system, where they'll be able to access all their source documentation. We even have work papers in here that they can use, and that allows everybody to collaborate on the fund in the one place. Another important thing to mention is that from an audit perspective is our data feeds all exclusively come with what's called an ASAE 3402 compliance certificate. Now, essentially, we were accredited that certificate on the back of our data feed standards. It is essentially an assurance provided to auditors that any data that has flowed through via our data feeds have been handled with care, and we can ensure them that no data has been tampered with. As a result, it will mean that there will be a lot less substantive testing that the auditor may elect to do. And at the same time, it'll just make their job a lot easier. And having it all on the cloud with ASAE feeds means that it makes it a lot easier to collaborate with your auditor. Also, we have this members console, or member information, contribution summary, pension summary, the statement of financial position, asset allocation, asset strategy comparison chart, processing status, and the feeds console, which shows us the data feeds that we have set up for this particular fund. So if I go in here, you'll notice, being a demo fund, I've only got 2 data feeds set up. I have a demo broking account and a demo banking account feed set up. However, we don't charge any extra for data feeds. We want our clients to have as many as possible to allow you to generate as much automation as possible and much efficiency as possible. So we don't charge any extra, and this is a list of all the data feeds you can get on Class. So in terms of market data, for any of your funds that invest in managed funds, that will flow through from Iris. For any of your clients with properties in their funds, you will be able to get free property valuations for residential properties, which will flow through automatically from CoreLogic RP data. We also have SMSF data flow, so that will act as your superstring, allowing you to automate concessional contributions. We have the ASX, these foreign stock exchanges and foreign currencies for any overseas investments that your clients may have, and this will allow the system to automatically calculate any FX gains and losses for you in the background. On the next page, we have a list of all the bank feeds that you can get set up. Next, we have all the broker feeds, including all the main ones from CommSec, Macquarie, NAB, Westpac, and quite a lot of mid-tier brokers, as you can see here as well. And lastly, we have a list of all the platforms, wraps, IMA, and SMA feeds that you can get set up. These are particularly helpful because most of them support history, and a lot of them also support tax statement information. So that will save you a couple of hours of data entry every August or September when that tax statement data flows through directly into the system for you. Now, with most clients, they'll understand the need for data feeds, why it's in their best interest as well, and why they're actually more secure, a more secure method for getting data into the system. However, it's pretty possible that you may have a few clients that don't like internet banking and won't like data feeds. On Class, you can still upload data manually, and there's a few ways to do that as well for those sorts of clients. The easiest way of doing it is you can simply upload a CSV file by selecting that button and choosing from the file in your system here. Alternatively, you can actually copy and paste from any spreadsheet. So you just make sure that you have it in the format of date, description, cash out, cash in, and then you can just copy it straight into here from your Excel spreadsheet. Also, you can upload a bank statement in QIF file format, and you just upload that in here. Okay. And as an absolute last case resort, you can always just manually type in the information as well, but I've never seen anybody actually have to do that. Now, once the data is in the system and you've got your feeds up and running and flowing, the match transaction screen, this is where the processing actually happens. This is where your journal entries will be created. Now, you should see two sides of the screen here. We have our cash transactions on the left-hand side and business transactions on the right-hand side. The cash transactions are simply any cash amounts coming in or out of the super fund. So these would typically come through the bank feed. The business transactions, they are the actual events that have taken place that as an accountant, you need to create a journal entry for. And so the way the class system recognizes what a transaction is and what journal entry to create for you is in most cases by matching a cash transaction to a business transaction. However, the system itself is very clever and it's very intuitive. And 95% of that matching, approximately, give or take 95% of that matching, will just automatically take place for you in the background. The only reason you're seeing these transactions here is because I unmatched them beforehand, just so I could walk you through what's actually happening in the background. But just to show you what sort of transactions will be fully automated for you. Dividends. If I open one up, here is a Woolworths dividend. You'll see, when I open the event, you'll see in the top right-hand corner, the income announcement that was made to the ASX with that dividend information. So based on that, and based on the holding balance, which again, a key difference of Class and other systems out there is that Class can verify your holding balances on a daily basis. Most other systems can only verify it on a quarterly basis, meaning you have the correct holding balances 4 days, or you know that you have the correct holding balances 4 days out of 365 in the year on other systems. On Class, you know you've got the correct holding balance every day. So based on the information and the holding balance, the system can calculate that its expected gross payment of that dividend, and it will then calculate the franking credits, and then it will automatically create the journal entries for you, which look like this. Now, I don't know why you'd ever want to manually adjust it, but if you do, you can easily do that. In the bottom left-hand corner, you just hit the edit button, and you can come in here and you can just manually adjust whatever you like. Now, Class data feeds, a lot of the broker feeds actually support DRPs, which allow for automation of dividend reinvestment plans as we get that data, because we've built our own direct connect data feeds and we get that extra metadata. However, if you ever need to manually adjust that, underneath the announcement where it says includes reinvest, you can simply check that box. This menu will appear, and you can come in here and make manual residual adjustments if required. When it comes to any foreign securities, the same thing applies. The only difference is, as an example, if I open an Apple dividend that was paid into this fund, the system will also get the exchange rate for you. Now, that is the exchange rate that comes from the RBA, and that is the rate on the date that the payment was actually made. So the system will then be able to calculate the Australian dollar equivalent, do the same for any foreign tax credits, and again, automatically create the journal entry for you. When it comes to interest received, that will be automated. Any share purchases or sales, regardless of whether they're domestic or foreign, will be fully automated for you. With member contributions, you will be able to automate your concessional contributions. For non-concessional contributions, on the other hand, being an ad hoc deposit, you have to process those manually. It's still a really straightforward process, and I'll demonstrate how to do that in a moment. But with non-concessional contributions, there's just no constant variable that we can automate. But for your concessionals with SuperStream, class will take care of that for you. Your corporate actions, so you'll process those in bulk from the business level. And lastly, if I go back up to the top, when it comes to distributions from any ETFs or managed funds or stapled securities, the same thing will apply. However, sometimes the final distribution will be deferred and into the next period until the tax statement information is ready. And so the way class handles those types of distributions, which are deferred awaiting for the final tax statement, it will essentially put those distributions aside in the exceptions report for you. Once the tax statement information flows into the system, it will automatically process those for you as well. Now, let's go back to the match transaction screen. And what I want to demonstrate now is how this matching, how the processing is actually taking place in the background. So to do one manually, we have here cash transaction. There's an $80 Orica dividend up the top. I'm simply going to click on the cash transaction. Then I'll click on the business transaction I want to match it off to. If you look down the bottom of your screen, the system will show you the journal entry that it will create for you. And if you're happy with that, you simply hit the match button and the system will match them off. It'll create the journal entry and the transactions will disappear from both sides of the screen. So the goal here is to match off all the transactions. When we've got none left, that's when we're finished. Now, moving forward, we still have a few more dividends here. Instead of going through it one by one, which could be quite time consuming, we can simply use our auto match tool in the top left-hand corner. If I click on that and then select Run Auto Match, the system will simply find all the matches for me. Then when I hit Save Suggested, it'll just process them all for me in bulk. Okay. Next, we have a repetitive transaction, which happens every month. It's a drawdown in this case. And so what we can do is simply create a transaction rule to allow us to automate any repetitive transactions. So to do that, I'm just going to hit the menu next to one of the lines. It'll bring up these two options for us, and I'll select the option Create Rule For. So we'll tell the system that when a cash transaction comes through, which matches, in this case, this description, we can match it to any of these four variables, but for simplicity purposes, I'll just match it to the description. I'll classify that as, in this case, a drawdown payment. Then we select the pension account that it's relevant to, hit Save. The system will tell us that the rule has been saved successfully. When I close that, it'll bring up a list of all the transactions which are impacted by that particular rule. And then I just hit Create Business Events to process all those transactions for us. Okay, and so that's done. And so now the last cash transaction we have here, it's a non-concessional contribution. So as I said, this is an example of one of the few transactions that you'll need to process manually. To do that, we can simply hit the menu next to the line, and this time we'll select Match to New. And then we just got to tell the system what it is. So if I hit Member Income, it's a member contribution. We just need to plug the number into the right box. So I'll put the amount into the non-concessional box for the appropriate member. Hit Submit. And then it's going to ask us to confirm that he's over 65 years of age to remain compliant. Hit Yes, and that's it. It's done. So now we have no cash transactions left. Normally, if this was a real fund and I had cash data up until today's date, all the business side would be empty too. But essentially, with this process, this matching process that class has created, this automated GL, it ensures a greater level of accuracy. Because, well, as an example, if one of your clients is due a dividend and perhaps they haven't updated their bank details with the share registry, well, in that case, the dividend simply won't be paid into the bank account. And if you're just relying on transaction rules automating bank feeds, well, then that transaction is just not going to appear. It'll be a missing transaction, and you won't figure that out until you review the fund later on, or the auditor picks it up. On class, on the other hand, it determines what the fund should receive first. Once it's determined what it should receive, then it looks for a cash transaction to match it off against. So if there are any missing bank transactions, the system will pick it up for you. Or if there are any mistakes, if the amounts are off, it'll also pick it up for you. So that way, class can provide our clients with a greater level of automation as well as a greater level of accuracy when it comes to the processing. So if I go across back to the business events, you'll be able to see in this fund, if you look in the top right-hand corner, there are 252 transactions. Everything except for that non-concessional contribution would have been fully automated for us. Also, if you have properties, you can get free property valuations on the class system. So if I hit, all you've got to do is type in the address of the property, hit property valuations, and then request an automated valuation. RP Data will then provide us the valuation that it gives us. If you're happy with that, you can approve it. If not, you can reject it. You can use your own one, but they do provide you with this document, which you can supply to your auditor. So it'll have the property description, location highlights, past sales in the area, and market statistics in here. Now on class, we also have live reporting. This is designed to make it very simple to review funds and make any corrections if required. So we've got that for the statement of financial position, the operating statement, trial balance, and account postings. Now, as an example, if you're going through this and you see an employer contribution, how did it get to this total of $7,951? Well, next to every line, there's this little view transactions icon. If I click on that, it'll bring up a little ledger showing us how it got to that total. And then if there's something you're on a particular line you're unsure of, you can just hit the details link next to it. The system will then bring up the event where you can find the audit trail, you can find the journal entry, as well as any supporting documents. And then if you want to manually adjust anything, just in the bottom left-hand corner, hit the edit button, and you can come in here and just adjust whatever you need to adjust. The system will then fix everything from that point on for you. Now, when you finished your processing, the next step is to do what we call a period update. Now, a period update is where you get the system to automatically allocate the profits and losses of the investments in this fund to the appropriate members of the fund. So if I hit the financial year that we want to run the update for, simply select new period. We then want to select the date that the period ends. So with the ATOs, this will also do your ECPI calculations for you. So with the new interpretation of the ECPI legislation that the ATO has given out, we now know that if a fund, say, starts and finishes the year in pension, but there's a contribution somewhere in the middle, that's 3 separate periods that you would need to create financials for. On class, you can just run 3 period updates for those periods within the same financial year. So to do it, we just hit the process button and the system will automatically go through and run that update for us. Once that's done, if you ever want to undo it, you can always roll it back. But once that's done, we can close that. We can then request an actuarial certificate through one of our integrated partners if it's required. Now, Class's actuarial integrations are true two-way integrations, meaning that the data will flow from Class to the actuarial provider. The actuarial provider will then calculate the actual percentage, send it back into the Class system, and the system will automatically apply it for you. So just to show you, this is a list of the actual providers you can integrate with Class. So we've got Act2, Heffron, Lime Actuarial, ASAP, Verus, Haynes Actuarial, or Accurium. Now, once that's done, we can simply hit Finalize Tax, and that will create the tax return for us, which we will be able to lodge directly on the Class system. Now, when it comes to generating your reports, normally you would create a report package, but just to show you, this is a list of all the reports you can get on Class. We've got the annual return, all the accounting reports you could possibly need, all the financials. We also have an extensive list of investment reports in here, all the minutes and letters that you would need, members reports. So as an example, here's a members statement that the Class system will generate for you, where it will essentially provide you with the consolidated member benefit totals and then break it up amongst the members. So on the front page here, you can see the consolidated member benefit totals up here. On the next page, it'll show for the first member what part of his fund is in accumulation, on the next page, what part of his fund is in pension, and then the same for the other member, which will show what part of her fund is in, she's only got an accumulation part of her fund as well. Now, if you'd like a closer look at the reports, please contact one of our client managers. We'd be more than happy to send you out a sample report package and show you exactly how they look and what you can do. And keep in mind, with most of our reports, you can actually customize them so you can put your logo on them and make them look how you want them to look. Now, another feature that Class has is a white-labeled client portal. Now, this is the website version of the client portal. There's also a mobile app. Now, you'll notice in the top right-hand corner where it has the Class logo, you can put your logo there, and you can change the coloring and the display of this website so it looks like an extension of your website. So clients can go to your website, they can log in and see how their SMSF is performing, just like they can with their internet banking. So on the homepage, they'll get a little snapshot or a chart of what their portfolio is worth, how much they need to withdraw if they've got pension set up or contribute. They'll see their top performers, bottom performers, their asset allocation, and their last few bank statement transactions. But then clients can go into more detail. So if they hit the valuation link, they'll see a chart up the top, and then a proper breakdown of all of their assets underneath. Again, with Class's direct connect data feeds through, especially with our broker feeds, Class can verify that you have the correct holding balances on a daily basis. And we're the only vendor that can exclusively offer you that. Clients can also see their contribution, their bank statement, their contribution summary, their pension summary. Shows you what part of, so they can see if they've met their minimums or if they have not. There's also a performance chart, a time-weighted performance chart in here, which clients can then compare to various indices in here. They can download their own reports. There's details of the fund. And lastly, there's actually a bit of a messaging platform in here. So if you've logged into the Class system and you've seen, like on the members console, that one of your members hasn't drawn down enough, you can send them a message on this. And if they have the app on their mobile phone, it'll appear as a notification just like a text message. Or if you need, say, for example, a report or some sort of document from one of your clients, they can simply take a photo of it on their phone, upload it onto the app, and it'll flow through to you. So this is a powerful tool that will drive further engagement with your clients. It'll allow you to have extra touch points with your clients throughout the year, as opposed to just meeting them once a year. And it will also allow you to strengthen your relationship with them and potentially generate new revenue streams from your clients. And at the same time, it'll just allow you to demonstrate a digital prowess to your clients and allow you to compete with, the larger institutions out there who are looking to, compete with I guess, personalized service that growing practices provide through technology. And with this, you can meet that competitive threat head on. Now, let's go back into the class system and let's go back to the business level, because there's a lot more processing that you can do in bulk across all of your funds. As an example, we've heard a lot about T-bar reporting that you'll need to start doing for some of your clients on a quarterly basis. On Class, we've built this business level T-bar console, which will allow staying compliant really easily. The system will automatically just bring up a list of all the T-bar events that impact any of your clients. To remain compliant, all you've got to do is simply select the tax agent that will be lodging the events, then select the events that you want to report to the ATO, and simply hit Generate T-bar. The system will then automatically generate the T-bar file for you, where you can come in here, you can download the ATO file, and then you can lodge it on the ATO tax agent portal. Once you've lodged it, you can then come in here, mark it as lodged, so you know that. Another handy feature that the Class T-bar file does for you is, let's say, for example, you've lodged a file and then you've realized you needed to make a correction. All you've got to do is go back into the fund, make the correction, and generate a new file on Class. The new file that you generate will automatically have the cancellation request for that previous transaction in the exact format that the ATO needs. Now, once you've lodged the file, at the fund level, if I just open up, go back to a fund which is impacted by T-bar, you'll see a list of the T-bar events that you've lodged for that particular fund. And then on the transfer balance account tab, you'll see how much remaining cap space that client still has. Now, another thing we have here at the business level is a business level property console. This will show you a list of all the properties across all your funds at a glance. So you'll be able to identify if any of your properties need to be revalued anytime soon, or if any of the properties in any of your funds need work on the depreciation worksheet done. Another extremely powerful console that we have at the business level is a business level cash console. Now, I showed you how at the fund level, most of the processing will automatically just happen for you in the background, but there will be a few transactions that you'll need to do manually. On Class, you can process those transactions in bulk from a business level. So at the business level cash console, it'll bring up a list of any unmatched transactions across any of your funds. You can then use create transaction rules to process those in bulk, or you can come through here and just process them one at a time. And so what we found in terms of best practice usage of Class, most clients who are getting the most out of it will have all their data feeds set up to allow the greatest amount of automation in terms of the processing, and then they'll log into the Class system on a periodic basis. Now, that could be monthly, it could be quarterly, it could be weekly, but you can simply log into the system, open up this cash console, and just match off any of the transactions which haven't automatically matched off for you just by themselves. And if you do that, you're just going to stay on top of everything. You're going to have real-time information on your clients, and it'll mean that when deadlines come, they won't mean anything to you because you'll already be up to date. Another thing we've got here at the business level is the ability to create all your reports in bulk. So as an example, if I open up a report package, so to create your report package, you simply hit the Manage button. It'll bring up a list of all the reports that Class has on the left-hand side, the ones you've included on the right. So if you want to add any reports, you can just drag them across. And then when you're ready to create your reports, when you hit Run, it'll then bring up a list of all the super funds that you're looking after. So you can just drag the super funds across that you want to generate that report package for. So that will allow you to create all your reports in one go. And then lastly, when it comes to lodging your returns, you can do that directly on Class. You can lodge your tax returns via the PLS tax agent portal on the Class system, and you can do that whenever you like. So that's about it for me today. Thank you very much for joining and watching the presentation. If you have any further questions, if you'd like to see our reports in more detail, or if you have any questions about how migrations or transitions work, please reach out to your client managers. We'll be more than happy to take a call or receive an email and work with you and answer any questions you may have. Thanks again. Have a great afternoon. Bye.